I said sorry to my mother, and I shot up 1.2 inches in height after taking a sip of the class bell's milk. My eyesight instantly returned to 2020. All of this happened because I activated the mission first system. As long as I complete the tasks issued by the system, I can earn all sorts of miraculous rewards. So not only did I take down the school bully, I even won over the class bell. I went from a timid loser to the top dog on campus once and for all. My name is Kim So-hyun, and I was just an ordinary high schooler who got bullied every single day until I unexpectedly acquired an extraordinary mission system. I could hardly believe it when I first opened the system, but my finger slipped and I accidentally tapped on the class bell at Sharon's stomach just as I was about to explain. She smacked me hard across the face. As the coward I was, I only dared to go home and take out my anger on my mom. Then the system issued its very first mission. Apologized to my mother. Completing the task would earn me a gold card. I figured it couldn't hurt to try, so I rushed out of my room and wildly told my mom I was sorry. My little sister Kim Hyun thought I lost my mind when she heard that. Just then, the system notified me that the mission was complete and awarded me a gold card. I thought the gold card was actually made of real gold, but when I opened it I realized it was a growth card. That would make me 3 centimeters taller. I excitedly told my mom and Dayan I've grown taller. That made Dayan even more convinced that something was wrong with me. Unexpectedly, my mother also apologized to me, saying she shouldn't have lost her temper earlier. It was only then I realized that though I often apologized at school, I'd never once said sorry to my mother. The next day, I went to school as usual. I couldn't hide my excitement no matter how hard I tried. That's when the system sent me another reward. Unbelievably, it was both a gold and a silver card. But when I saw the new mission, I was completely stunned. The system wanted me to kiss the class bell. Back Sharon, that was just way too ridiculous. I immediately opted to give up, but the system warned me that giving up would revoke all previous rewards, and it would never appear again. If that happened, wouldn't I shrink back down at 5'6" and a 2? I could only grit my teeth and give it a try. It just so happened that back Sharon was resting in the classroom during P class because she had a stomachache, giving me a rare chance to be alone with her, but I was still hesitating. What reason could I possibly have to kiss her? To work up my courage, I snatched her milk and drank it myself. Then, heart pounding, I asked if I could kiss her. Of course her answer was a firm no way. I quickly waved my hands and awkwardly said I was just joking. Who could have guessed that at that exact moment, Choi Chang-dong, the fat jerk who always picked on me, caught it all on video. I begged him to delete the video, but he rewarded me with a brutal beating instead. In the end, it was Baek Sharon who stepped in to save me. I took the day off and went home, feeling utterly miserable. After all, I had to finish the mission before school let out. While I was wallowing in despair, convinced I'd soon shrink back to a run, the system suddenly notified me that the mission was complete. I had no idea how it happened. Turned out Baek Sharon, feeling thirsty, had drunk the milk after me. By pure accident, I completed the task. I hurriedly had the system open up my reward. When I saw what I'd gotten, I was floored. So there was a trick like this. The gold card could restore my eyesight to 2020. I couldn't wait to use it, nervously staring at my hands. Sure enough, my blurry vision gradually cleared. I shouted in excitement. This system was awesome. The second reward, a silver card, would become my secret weapon against the thugs. Attack Part Jap. The next day at school, Choi Chang-dong bullied me as usual. He told me to meet him behind the school after lunch. Predictably, he beat me up again and made me crawl around. Picking up the cigarette butts he tossed, my sister Kim Hyun happened to catch the scene. She glared at me and demanded to know what on earth I was doing. I was at a loss for words, unable to explain just then. That pervert Choi Chang-dong walked over and covered for me, then dragged me into the bathroom. He actually wanted me to introduce Kim Hyun to him. He wanted to date my sister. His reason: he thought my sister had something special. That was the last straw. I couldn't take it anymore and got ready to fight him. Unexpectedly, from the next stall, Puya, who couldn't stand it any longer, burst out and berated Choi Chang-dong for crossing the line. I had no idea why he was so worked up. He didn't even bother pulling up his pants. As a result, he got clobbered and knocked to the ground. Kojo was my desk mate, and he was often bullied by Choi Chang-dong too. His crime was just that he looked too much like a middle-aged man. At that moment, I suddenly shouted at Choi, "You bastard!" He heard me and slowly turned his head. His face darkened as he stalked toward me. "Kid, have you lost your mind?" With that, he raised his massive fist. But the next second, I landed a jab right on his face. Just because I've been meek didn't mean I was a pushover. Choi Chang-dong was dumbfounded by my sudden punch. Right then I realized I couldn't keep being weak. It was time to change, to fight back. I'd show them what it really meant to be tough. At that moment the system issued a new mission. If Choi Chong Dong he stared at me in disbelief. Have you watched too many movies? You wanna fight me before he finished? I hit him with another jab. That was when he finally realized I really was different. He tried to fight back but my fist landed on his face again. I was in cheat mode now before he could react. I unleashed a flurry of punches. I had no intention of stopping. I'd waited for this moment far too long. Kyujo was stunned by my sudden outburst. No idea how long it lasted, but eventually Choi's eyes rolled back and he collapsed. I sat astride him gasping for breath. The system immediately notified me that the task was complete. My jab skill proficiency had soared to 97. Kyujo hurriedly pulled me up, wanting to get out before Choi's lackey showed up. We ran to the basketball court behind school. I took the chance to open the 2-card rewards from the system. After all, nobody could see my mission interface. Just then Beck Sharon happened by and spotted me. She said Choi Chong Dong was combing the whole school looking for me and asked what had happened. I mumbled something about a small disagreement. She saw right through me and could tell I was about to get beaten up again. She told me to take the day off and promised to keep my secret, but in the end Kyujo and I still got caught red-handed. And as luck would have it, the school tyrant happened to be back today. Rumor had it he'd never lost a fight, a true menace when he heard I could box. He actually let me throw the first punch. I figured since I was going to get beaten anyway, I'd better be proactive, so I suddenly unleashed my boxing skill on him. But he just sidestepped with ease. I didn't have time to be shocked, and I threw another dozen punches, all of which he dodged effortlessly. As I frantically searched for a way out, he suddenly landed a punch square on my face. When I came to, I found myself flat on my back. Looks like he KO'd me in one hit. And since I dared to lay a hand on the school tyrant, I figured I was in for it. I started imagining every miserable fate that might await me, but then Hajun calmly invited me to join him for a smoke. I froze thinking he just wanted a quiet place to beat me up. But to my surprise he said sorry. Your punch was impressive. I just reacted instinctively. He told me he liked boxing too and wanted to be friends. I was completely dumbfounded. Was he apologizing? Did he actually respect my boxing? Even at night my mind kept replaying what happened. How was Jin so different from his reputation? That was when I remembered I still hadn't opened the system rewards from earlier. One was a silver card to restore stamina, the other a bronze card for hitting high notes and singing, neither of which seemed very useful. The next day at school, to my surprise, no one came looking for trouble with me or Kuja. The piece actually felt a bit strange. That's when Choi Chan-dong suddenly showed up in the classroom, looking for me, scaring me so much that I instantly switched to battle mode, but all he did was toss out after school. Go see Jin and walk away. Crap, I was really in for it this time. If I bailed I'd just get beaten even worse, tomorrow after school. I braced myself and headed to the karaoke bar where Hajun was waiting. The moment I walked in, I saw the place was already packed with all the school's big names. Glancing around I even spotted Baekjer. Hagen introduced me as his friend and told me to sing a song first. I didn't know the first thing about music, but the moment I opened my mouth, the whole crowd was stunned. Even Baekjer looked genuinely surprised. After all, I had that music skill card boosting me. Just like that I blended right in with the group. It was only then I realized I misjudged Jin. He was actually a really kind person. The next morning I headed to school as usual. For the first time I actually looked forward to going. Because now Hajun was willing to be my friend. He said I could come to him for help if I ran into any trouble. With that, Kuja and I no longer had to worry about getting bullied. We happened to bump into Hajun on the way, and got ready to enter the school together. Suddenly a system notification chimed. Main quest activated. Completing the main quest for the first time earns a diamond card, even rarer than a gold card. This quest was bound to be tough, but I was determined to complete it no matter what. But when I saw the task I was completely floored. The system actually wanted me to defeat the boss of West Ganbakai within 3 days. Never mind that I was no match for Jin. He was also my big brother now. So I thought I might as well give up the quest. With Jin backing me, school life would be smooth sailing. But then by chance, I caught him chewing out his underlings for not collecting enough protection money. I asked him why he treated me so well. He answered it was because I could box. Turns out what he liked was the fighter me. If I gave up the quest I'd lose the system and my boxing skills. We found out I was just a weakling. He definitely ignored me. In other words, I had no choice but to go all out. That night I practiced boxing alone in the park. If I wanted to beat Hajun, I had to get stronger, but at my current strength, I was nowhere near his level. As I was worrying, a group of high schoolers came by, asking if they could borrow some bus fare to get home. I put on an innocent face and said I didn't have any money either. Their expressions changed instantly. They were actually muggers. When I didn't cooperate, they raised their fists, ready to beat me up, but I instinctively threw the first punch. Right then the system notification chimed, "Congratulations. Your jab skill has leveled up." Turns out I could actually improve my skills through real combat. While I was distracted, a thug tried to sucker punch me, but I countered with a punch of my own. My upgraded jab was faster and stronger than ever. That rekindled my hope of beating Hajun. But right now the most important thing was dealing with these thugs. Just then the system suddenly popped up a side quest. Fight the gangsters and win. The quest could be given up before I could decide. The thugs were already charging at me. I crossed my tank top in front of me and took up a fighting stance. I might have looked ready to die on the outside, but inside I was still scared, so I used the high note skill to psych myself up. I threw a punch at the first thug rushing me, and to my surprise, knocked him out cold. Looks like my punches were even stronger than I thought, so now of course, I had to get out of there fast. I wasn't confident about taking on all four at once. The other four immediately chased after me. I sprinted into a narrow dead-end alley, the thugs thinking I was trapped, but that was my plan all along. The tight space gave me the upper hand. I pulled out the senzu bean I could only use once a day, popped it, and instantly felt my stamina restore. The blonde thug charged at me, and I landed a jab right in his face. I slipped and closed my fists, raining down on him like a stone. Just like that I took down a second thug. The remaining three all froze. I've been gasping for air a moment ago, and now I'd just taken out their toughest guy in seconds, taking advantage of their shock. I turned on my high note skill and charged. Each punch landed precisely on their jaws. Just like that I easily defeated all the thugs. At that moment the system notification sounded, "Congratulations. You've achieved a hidden condition victory without a scratch. Bonus reward 1 gold card." I couldn't wait to see what I'd gotten, but the card's description left me completely baffled. Gain 100 kg of body weight for 5 seconds. I never expected this would become my secret weapon for defeating Hajun. There were only 8 hours left, and I still had no clue how to challenge him, or even what excuse to use. Just then Hajun called me to go to the corner shop with him. As soon as we left the classroom, a couple walked by laughing and joking. They accidentally smeared ice cream on Hayden's shirt. The next moment he grabbed the guy and beat him up. I thought to myself, isn't this the perfect excuse to start a fight? So I mustered my courage and called him a bastard. His face immediately darkened. "Are you talking to me? That's right. I mean, you bastard." I pulled out all my skill cards, ready to fight him for real. But he just raised his hand and lightly patted me on the head. "Kim Soo-hyun, you're actually pretty loyal. You get mad when I mess with someone from your class." I was about to explain that I just wanted to punch him, but he told me not to be mad, then slung his arm around me and dragged me off to the corner shop. By the afternoon P class, the whole school had already heard about it. Word was some guy named Kim Soo-hyun actually dared to publicly challenge the school tyrant. All I could do was sit on the bleachers, looking utterly hopeless. I never expected Hajun would actually come over to apologize to me. With only 2 hours left before the mission's deadline, I still hadn't found a reason to start a fight with Hajun. Just then a classmate rushed over, face pale with worry something big had happened. My desk mate Kuja had gone to challenge Hee-jin all by himself. Turns out he saw how gloomy I've been all day, and thought Hee-jin had bullied me, so he went to confront Hee-jin for an explanation. But how could a chubby kid who gets picked on every day ever stand up to the school tyrant? One punch from Hee-jin set Kuya sprawling, and then came a barrage of fists and kicks. Sneering, Hee-jin started mocking him. In this world, even making friends has its ranks. If you stick with Kim Soo-hyun, you'll only hold him back. But Kuya fired back without hesitation. "If that's the reason you call Soo-hyun your friend, he'll never accept you." Hearing that, I charged forward, landing a punch right on Hee-jin, leaving his henchman completely stunned. All my memories of school life came flooding back. If it hadn't been for Kyujo always looking out for me, I wouldn't have made it this far. So this time I wasn't going to let him get hurt. News spread and the whole class came to watch the commotion. Even back Sharon Tad DeLong. But everyone figured there was no way I could take on Hajun. I'd just get totally crushed. Hajun looked at me, face unreadable. "You really want to fight me? I thought we were friends." I didn't hesitate for a second. I only have one friend, and that's Kyujo. With that I activated every card I could. Today I had to defeat Hayden. I opened with a jab, but even my upgraded skill was dodged with ease. So I unleashed a barrage of jabs, one after another, and for a moment, it looked like I was pushing Hayden back, but I quickly burned through my stamina. Hagen seized the opportunity and punched me right in the gut. Seeing through me, he knew all I had was my jab. I struggled to my feet only to take a hard slap across the face. Still I threw myself at him again. I knew full well I wasn't his match, but I had to change tactics. I'd let him keep attacking me until he got bored. Until he let his guard down. The moment he hesitated, I lunged in and grabbed him, popping a senzu bean as I did. Hajun, totally baffled, cursed out loud then threatened to kill me. His henchmen rushed to stop him. Nobody knew what a furious Hajun would do next, but I'd already seized control of the fight. Hajun tried to shove me off using every ounce of strength, but he couldn't budge me an inch, because I'd activated my special skill card. Gaining 100 kilograms for 5 seconds, not only did my weight increase, but my strength tripled too. I lifted Hajun up and slammed him hard into the ground. A 150 kilo impact, he couldn't take it. Then I tore off my jacket, crossed my tank top, and let loose a barrage of iron fists like a downpour, each blow weighing over 100 kilos. As the skill's effect faded, Hajun completely lost the ability to fight. I collapsed to the ground right after. The whole place was dead silent. Baek Sharon was dumbstruck. Kyujo was speechless. I rolled over and roared at the sky. Not because I defeated West Gangbuk High's infamous tyrant, but because I'd finally completed the system's mission. Without a school tyrant, the atmosphere instantly became much more relaxed. Hajun didn't show up at school that day. No one could believe someone had actually beaten Hajun, least of all that it was me, the guy who'd always been bullied. Just then a student shouted for everyone to quiet down. The new school tyrant was coming down the hall. That's right, after defeating Hajun, I was now the new boss of West Gangbuk High. But honestly, I just wanted to complete the system's tasks one step at a time. In the bathroom, I couldn't wait to pull out the diamond card. I just earned my highest tier card yet. It definitely looked the part, with 5 ultra flashy special effects when I unlocked it, but when I read what it actually did, I was left completely baffled. The card was called Peep, and all it said was that I could peek at someone. As I left the bathroom, Kyujo warned me to brace myself. Apparently everyone wanted to see what the new boss looked like. Rumors about me were already flying all over campus. Some said I was a great guy, some said I was a total lunatic. There were even stories I'd beaten Hajun into the ICU, and even fought his dad in reality. Hajun just didn't feel like coming to school. Even Kuja got dragged into the gossip. People said he was a 48-year-old fighting machine, and I was his son. All I wanted now was to get out of there as fast as possible. And then I bumped straight into someone's chest. Behind him stood 2 huge, burly troublemakers. All 3 stared me down. The next second the guy suddenly went nuts. He yelled and bowed deeply. "Hello, senior. First year boss Lee Hyun-dong greets you." The sudden bow left me totally dumbfounded. I hurriedly told him to get up, but he misunderstood, thinking I wanted him to kneel. I quickly explained I had no interest in being anyone's boss. I just wanted to get through school in peace. But Lee Hyun-dong asked if I was going to abandon them. When had I ever accepted any of these guys? Hearing my answer, he could only walk away crestfallen. Kyuja explained that Lee Hyun-dong used to be Hee-jin's lackey, but he had his own ambitions. He wanted to unite all of Gangbuk. Right now Gangbuk was like a battlefield, with the 4 strongest high schools, each building their own power base. But I had zero interest in uniting Gangbuk, and I certainly didn't want anything to do with these delinquents. Just then the system issued a new mission. Take over West Gangbuk High. The first step: win over the first years. I wanted to just give up, but that would mean going back to being a weakling bullied by everyone. So I quickly called them back, saying what I just said was actually a test. Lee Hyun-dong spun around, eyes shining with excitement. Starting now, I'm taking over West Gangbuk High. His followers immediately started shouting about uniting all of Gangbuk. Seeing how happy they were for me, I couldn't help but smile a little myself. But what I said was take over West High, not unite Gangbuk. They even wanted to throw me an inauguration ceremony as the new boss. All I wanted was to lie low, so I flat out refused. But the system instantly gave me a new mission: hold the ceremony in the inn. I could only accept fighting back tears inside. The conference room, 2 rows of underlings stood in perfect formation. At a single command they all bowed to me in unison. As soon as the system notified me that the mission was complete, I got up ready to make my escape. But Lee Hyun-dong rushed over, launching into a report about the current situation in Gangbuk, and saying the 4 major high schools would be holding a summit soon. This time I was firm. I absolutely refused to take part. All I wanted was to live as a normal student. That night I finally relaxed, collapsing on the sofa to watch TV. When Kim Di-hyun got home, she asked what I'd done today. How come upperclassmen were bowing to her in the hallway, and how come rumors were spreading at school about the tank top killer Kim Soo-hyun. I waved her off, told her not to worry, and promised I wouldn't cause any more trouble. Now I was free, finally able to live like a regular person. Too bad that was just wishful thinking. The system immediately issued a new mission: attend the Gangbuk Summit with a reward of 1 gold card and 10 bronze cards. For the sake of the mission, I had no choice but to call Li Hyun-dong and say I'd attend. The next day after school, just as Kuya and I stepped out the school gate, Li Hyun-dong showed up with a whole crew of underlings to greet me. I was used to it by now, so I calmly asked what on earth he was up to this time. Lee Hyun said that only the leaders of each school would be attending the Gangbok Summit, and he wanted to arrange protection for me just in case, but in the end I only brought Kuya and Lee Hyun. I just wanted to keep a low profile and get the mission done. With Lee Hyun leading the way, we arrived at an abandoned, half-finished building. Stepping inside, I saw Kang Sok, the school tyrant from Gangbok South High, already waiting. Moments later, Han Hayo, the boss from Gangbok East High, arrived with his own crew. Right then the system notified me that the mission was complete, so I got ready to head home and claim my reward, but Han Hayo suddenly grabbed me by the throat, saying he'd come here just for me. I heard you beat Hee-jin, let's see if you can take me down too. I just smiled calmly. Wasn't this exactly the kind of scripted event I'd come to expect from the system? Now all I had to do was make a move, and a new system mission was bound to pop up, just like when I fought Hajun. But honestly, I had zero desire to fight this guy. So to keep the system from issuing another mission, all I had to do was nothing. But the others started spinning their own stories, thinking I was provoking Han Hayo. Even the rumors about me as the tank top killer, they figured I must be a real brawler. Kang Sok was already scheming, planning to swoop in after Han Hayo and I wore each other out. Han Hayo's face twitched with rage as he glared at my calm expression. Just as he was about to make a move, one of his own underlings quickly pulled him back, reminding him Kang Sok was still watching for an opening. Han Hayo reluctantly backed down. At that moment I quietly used my peep skill to check their stats. But the system said my skill level wasn't high enough. Clearly they were both a cut above me. Because of the Gangbok Summit, I barely slept that night. Now a few of my underlings gathered around trying to flatter me, and even claimed they'd heard I knocked out the boss of Gangbok East with a single dragon. Tighter a fist, the rumor had already spread through the school. The one who started that nonsense was none other than my own underling, Lee Hyun-dong. He said it was to boost West High's morale. I suddenly felt more exhausted than ever. As my underlings cheered, I could only stare blankly at the ceiling and let out a long, helpless sigh. After a day like this, I felt like I was falling apart. Luckily, I still had those 11 system cards to look forward to. Now for the moment of truth, time to open them up. I started with a rare gold card, and a skill turned out to be card fusion, letting me combine or break down other cards. Since all those bronze cards were basically useless, I fused them into higher level silver cards, but the silver card skills turned out to be playing soccer and basketball, completely useless in a fight. So I gritted my teeth and fused all the silver cards into a single gold card. When I saw the name of the new card, I got excited all over again. The card was called Master Please. Its skill: every time I get hit, something good happens, but only after 5 hits. Just then the system issued another new mission. Recruit 4 members for my team. Reward 1 gold card. The first person I recruited, of course, was my old friend Kuja. While I was thinking about who to recruit next, Lee Hyun-dong strutted over in his usual flamboyant way. I asked if he wanted to join my team. He froze, thinking I was preparing to unify all of Gangbok, and immediately dropped to his knees, bowing to me with utmost seriousness. Late that night, I lay alone on a park bench as I pondered who else to recruit. Beck Sharon suddenly appeared, hands in her pockets. Turns out she lived near the park. Since I wanted to try out my new card, I asked her to slap me 5 times. Just then a bunch of delinquent teens showed up and interrupted us. One look was all it took. I recognized them as the same guys who tried to mug me last time, the ones I'd already beaten up. Clearly they were here for revenge. The system also issued a new mission: defeat the delinquents. The reward was a silver card. This time though, they brought along a big, early bruiser. I used my peep skill to check, and aside from being a bit slow, every one of his stats was higher than mine. Just as I was gearing up for a fight, Beck Sharon stepped in to stop me. Honestly, if she could handle it, I wouldn't have minded it at all. But the delinquents got even more excited when they saw Beck Sharon and started getting hands. I rushed forward to stop them, only to take a punch in the stomach from the big guy. Clutching my belly, my body trembled. Not from pain, but from a weird sense of comfort, since it triggered the passive effect of my Master Please card. Then a delinquent came over and wailed on me some more, quickly stacking my passive to 5 hits. System notification: strength temporarily increased. The delinquent thought he'd won, grinning in triumph. The next second, my fist smacked into his face. With the skill boost, my power skyrocketed, and my punch sent him flying over 10 meters away. The big guy saw that and got serious, taking off his jacket to go all out as usual. I crossed my tank top and got ready to fight. A battle between the school boss and the delinquents was about to erupt. He charged at me with a wild swing. I threw a straight punch hitting him square in the face. But just then the gold card's effect wore off. My strength dropped back to normal. That punch barely phased him. He grabbed me and shoved me back, then he landed a heavy blow, sending me flying clearly. I was no match for him. I tried making a timeout gesture. Of course it didn't work. I took another punch back. Sharon rushed over to me. Worried the big guy kept spouting filth. But in the blink of an eye, my fist landed on his face. He didn't even have time to react. Before I knocked him down with a single punch, the gold card's strength boost had kicked in again. But the very next moment he grabbed me in a wrestler's hold. Turns out he was a grappler. He thought he had me, but he couldn't even budge me. Because I used my skill to push the card to its limit, instantly adding 100 kilos to my weight. My strength soared with it. I dropped my elbow, immediately knocking the fight out of him. Then I followed up with a heavy punch. In the end, after a flurry of blows, he went down for good. System notification: mission complete. Reward: 1 silver card. But this bruiser was just a disposable pawn sent by Haya after learning he'd lost. Wang Dizong, ranked 14th at East High, was set my way next in the classroom. I opened the system silver card reward. The card was called Ascend, but I still had no idea what it actually did. So I decided to focus on completing the mission to recruit 4 members. As luck would have it, today the former school tyrant Hajun returned. I went to ask if he'd be willing to join. As expected, he ignored me completely. Right then the system issued a new mission, directing me to find a way to recruit Hejin. After school kuya and I sat on a bench waiting for the bus. Suddenly one of our underlings rushed over, shouting that Li Hai and Dong had been captured by students from East High. The one who grabbed him was none other than Huang Dizong, sent by Han Hayo to deal with me. With layers of thick fat, he turned himself into a human tank. His defense was maxed out. Li Hai and Dong was quickly knocked to the ground, just as Huang Dizong's crew was about to haul him off to the hospital. I arrived in time and launched a punch at them, but now I had to face a whole gang of delinquents. Huang Dizong shrugged off his jacket. Ready to go one-on-one, I started off with a series of jabs. But no matter how many I landed, they barely did any damage. Who would have thought his body fat gave him such broken defense? I couldn't even reach his head due to the height difference, and while I hesitated, he landed a punch right in my stomach. But suddenly an idea for beating him came to me. I lunged forward, wrapping my arms around him, ready to activate my maximum capacity card and hit him with a suplex, but the system notified me, art on cooldown, unable to activate. Only then did I remember I'd used it last night and it was still cooling down. Wang Dizong grabbed me and slammed me to the ground. That blow knocked the fight right out of me. He immediately told his crew to take care of me. Li Hai and Dong quickly jumped in front to shield me, but they ignored him, swinging a wooden club straight at his head. At the critical moment, Hajun suddenly appeared, kicking one of Huang Dizong's guys flying. He looked at me seriously. I heard you want me to join you. What's that about? I couldn't exactly tell him it was a system mission just then. Hajun turned away, saying he'd join me and that those punks were all his now. Immediately, the system notified me I'd completed the mission to recruit Hajun, awarding me a silver card. I used a recovery card to get back on my feet. Right on cue, the system issued a new mission. Combine different cards together for a gold card reward. Wang Dizong, seeing I could still stand, swung a punch at my face, but it triggered my Master Please card skill. He kept up the attack, stacking my passive up to 5 layers, boosting my strength massively. I countered with a punch straight to his chest. The next moment left everyone in shock. Then I used the Ascend card, and to my amazement, leapt 4 or 5 meters straight up. Wang Dizong thought he just had to catch me on the way down, but I spun 180 degrees in midair and landed a spinning back kick right on his head. That kick knocked him out cold, and he crashed hard to the ground. Everyone, his crew and mine, stood there stunned, unable to believe I could pull off such a flashy move. All of this was thanks to successfully recruiting Hajun. The silver card I'd drawn turned out to be spinning back kick. Just as I finished showing off, the system chimed in with a mission complete notice, but then it presented me with 2 reward cards, asking me to pick one. One was a consumable card called Meeting, which would let me directly meet the task issuer. The other was Card Eye, which would let me see the next card's contents in advance. The decision tormented me all the way back to school, as much as it pained me to pass up Card Eye. I had to know the source of these missions. In the end, I chose Meeting. The moment I used it, I was stunned. All my underlings vanished. I chased a beam of light to the school field, where a gigantic card appeared before me. I couldn't believe it. I was actually facing the system itself. The system told me I could ask anything, and it would answer. I fired off a barrage of questions like a machine gun. Who was assigning these missions? Why was I chosen? What did they want from me? The system cut me off, calmly stating it would answer everything. And now it would connect me directly to its master. A human voice suddenly rang out. So you're Kim So Hyun to draw the meeting card so soon? Your luck's impressive, I hurriedly asked. Am I the only one with missions, or are there others? The issuer didn't answer directly. Just told me not to worry, and that what I feared wouldn't happen. But for me, meeting the issuer so soon was no good. Since he still wasn't sure I could handle the job, he knew I was curious but said we hadn't built enough trust yet. If I wanted to know more, I'd need to prove myself first. I asked how the issuer was blunt. Only by unifying gangbok would he believe I could handle it. Unifying gangbok would mean a lot of fighting. With my current strength I could handle basic thugs, but for real bosses I still needed to get hit a few times before I could counterattack. Seeing my hesitation, the issuer pressed me. Was I going to give up? He said. Wasn't this the perfect opportunity? Ever since I got the system, my eyesight had improved. I had grown taller. And a loser who out-bullied every day had become the most respected boss at school, and that was just from gold card effects. Seeing me tempted, the issuer dangled more bait. He said above gold and platinum cards, there were Diamond Master. Even the Ultimate Challenger cards. Aren't you curious about their powers? Then suddenly a bunch of guys surrounded me, groping me like they had some weird fetish. Lehigh and Dong burst into tears, saying I'd suddenly stopped breathing and they thought I'd died, so they huddled up to keep me warm, and even started discussing my funeral. Only Kuja looked unfazed, busy planning new uniforms for the gang. Lehigh and Dong guessed I was just exhausted from so many fights lately and urged me to go home and rest. After all, my body wasn't just mine anymore. Which suited me fine. I was eager to slip away. Just as I was about to step out the classroom door, I remembered what the system had said. Even gold cards had already changed my life so much. What about platinum, diamond? Could I soar even higher? I paused and called out to Lehigh and Dong. Told him I'd suddenly become interested in unifying gangbok. His eyes lit up instantly. That had always been his dream, and now it was finally within reach. He thumped his chest with confidence, vowing to make all of gangbok hear the name of West High. After leaving school, boredom got the better of me, so I started practicing my peep skill on random people. With repeated practice, peep finally leveled up to level 1. Naturally, my first test subject had to be the class belle. This bat Sharon walked down the street. She suddenly felt uneasy, glancing warily around as if she sensed someone watching her. Meanwhile, in my vision, I could already see her stats dot, but after leveling up, the panel didn't show much new. Just hide and wait at it didn't seem useful for fighting at all. I flipped through all my cards again. I had quite a variety of skills, but if I wanted to unify gangbok with just these cards, it still sounded like pure fantasy. Looks like I'd have to complete more missions and get a few more attack cards. That made me think of Han Hayo and Kang Sok again. My skin pricked with goosebumps. I silently vowed not to cross paths with either of them until I was stronger, but before I could even catch my breath, I looked up and ran right into Han Hayo's dark scowl. I didn't even get a chance to ask why he was here before Han Hayo struck, kicking me clear off my feet. That kick nearly sent me straight to the afterlife. When he saw I wasn't fighting back, he came at me with another kick. If he landed bat 1, I'd be done for. I hurriedly popped a senzu bean and scrambled away, rolling and crawling to dodge his attacks. Han Hayo eyed me suspiciously, wondering how someone this weak could have beaten Huang Dizong. Once I put some distance between us, I used peep to check Han Hayo's attributes, and my heart sank. He had 2 S-rank stats, and even his lowest was an 8. By comparison, my own panel didn't have a single stat worth mentioning. For a moment, I had no idea how I was going to get out of this. Right then, the system decided to stir the pot, issuing a mission to defeat Han Hayo with a platinum card as the reward. Thinking fast, I tried to talk Han Hayo into postponing the fight. After all, in a deserted spot like this, it wouldn't mean anything even if he won. A real showdown between bosses should be in front of a crowd. Han Hayo thought it over and agreed. Asking when we'd fight, I told him not to worry. I'd let him know the time and place. He didn't press the issue and strode off. That's exactly what I was hoping for. I instantly activated Ascend, leaping up to launch a sneak attack. But with Han, he has a rank endurance. He was practically immune to my normal attacks, so the moment I landed, I used maximum capacity and unleashed a full power spinning back kick. Even if it didn't seriously injure him, it had to hurt, but I'd underestimated him. My can't-miss sneak attack was dodged effortless, and with a swift counter he kicked me 10 meters through the air. I crashed to the ground, a useless heap. Feeling helpless and breathless for the first time, Han Hayo gave me a look like I was trash. If I hadn't messed up my jump, Maybe he'd have taken the hit. My spinning back kick was textbook perfect and looked powerful, but now I couldn't even hear what he was saying. The system's grating alert echoed it in my mind. Side mission failed just as I was sinking into disappointment. The system pinged again with a hidden achievement. First time losing to an unbeatable foe. Reward 1 diamond card. When I opened my eyes again, I saw Lee Hyun-dong's anxious face. He'd heard I got in a fight with Han Hayo and risked sneaking into the alley to drag me out. I was touched and asked why he hadn't taken me to the hospital. Lee Hyun-dong patted his chest, saying there was no need. He'd studied a lot of first aid just to take care of me and had already patched me up. I took back half of my gratitude. What followed was a deep sense of defeat. This was the first time I've been utterly crushed. I'd held my own against Huang Dizon. Was the gap between me and Han Xia really this huge? Just then Hajun showed up to check on me, saying I was lucky Han Xia hadn't really meant to cripple me, or I'd be in the hospital for sure. Suddenly it hit me. For someone as strong as Han Hayo to be so wary of Hejin, I couldn't resist using Peep to check Hejin's stats. The moment his panel popped up, I was shocked. Hejin's level was nearly on par with Han Hayo's. Did that mean he'd held back when we fought? I couldn't help but ask Hayden why he looked out for me. He hadn't even used his full strength in our fight, and now he was willing to join my crew. Aged told me not to overthink it. He was just curious about me, and warned me not to expect I could order him around, then left the classroom face serious. Washing his back, I couldn't help but complain. How could someone be this weird? I told Lee Hyun-dong to stop bugging me and go amuse himself. All I wanted was to be alone for a while. Hyun-dong, seeing how down I looked, tried to stick around and cheer me up. I impatiently shooed him away. Right now all I could think about was the diamond card I just received. What kind of use skill would it give me? I opened the system's diamond card to my surprise. It was a summoning card. This was my first time seeing a skill like this. The system repeatedly warned me to only use it somewhere safe. I decided to go home and study it properly. Kim Hyun told me she had friends coming over. She thought having a delinquent brother was too embarrassing, so she begged me to stay in my room and not show my face. I couldn't be bothered to argue. It was the perfect chance to quietly try out my new power. I took out the diamond card and shouted summon. Copy cloud. The room was suddenly bathed in rainbow light. Then a strange cloud floated out. I stared at it blankly. This was the copy cloud. Not even an instruction manual. The system must have heard me grumbling, because it immediately shoved the instructions into my mind. Turns out once you activate copy mode, it will automatically replicate nearby people. I figured I'd give it a try and told it to start copying. Right then Kim Hyun burst into my room. Turns out one of her friends was a fan of mine and had dragged her here for an autograph. Copy cloud instantly locked onto Kim Hyun, its pale blue color turning blood red as it wrapped tightly around her. It all happened so fast I didn't have time to react. The system alert sounded. Copying Kim Hyun in progress. Meanwhile Han Hayo swuttered back to school, still mocking me as weak and useless. Now all of West High's territory was being handed over to East High. He ordered the 13th ranked King Du Hyuk to take over suddenly. Han Hayo remembered that West High still had Hejin. The former boss figured taking the territory wouldn't go smoothly, so he told King Du Hyuk to contact Park Ji Hyun, the 5th ranked fighter, to go with him. With Park Ji Hyun there, dealing with Hejin shouldn't be a problem. Next he set his sights on South High, ready to face King Sok head on. He had to take down West and South High first. Only then would he be qualified to challenge the East High monster. At the same time my sister was nearly suffocated by the system. Never expecting my system to have such a twisted quirk, but once the skill started, I couldn't interfere at all. After a grueling 5 minutes, Kim Hyun collapsed on the floor. Eyes vacant, I hurried over to check on her, asking if she'd seen anything strange. Dahyun looked confused and said she just felt like something suddenly tied her up with rope. She even asked if the house was haunted. Once I confirmed she hadn't seen anything, I finally breathed a sigh of relief. Holding the copy cloud, I didn't know what to do next. The system helpfully suggested I could summon the copy Dayan. Figuring it couldn't hurt, I gave the command. Copy cloud floated out of my arms, slowly taking on human form. The next second a living, breathing King Hyun appeared in front of me. I jumped quickly, opened the door, and saw the real Hyun still chatting with her friends. I could only close the door in a daze. I poked the copy. The feel was no different from the real thing. A chill ran down my spine. Had I really made a new sister? If anyone saw this, would they think I was some kind of alien? While my thoughts were spiraling, Copy Cloud suddenly lashed out, smacking me across the face before angrily returning to the card deck. I stared at the diamond card, still shaken. So this was what I got after all that trouble. What's the use of copying people anyway? Two sisters just means double the headaches. Just as I was stewing, Lee Hai and Dong's big face suddenly popped up, scaring me so much I told him to back off. He looked serious, saying he'd heard East High had already sent people to take over West High's turf. Leading the charge were Park Jan and Kang Do-hyuk, both top 10 fighters in East High. And they'd brought elite crews. While with our current strength we didn't stand a chance. Hearing this, I started to panic a bit inside. The attack cards I had were few, and there was no way to get stronger in such a short time. So I hid in a corner of the campus, deep in my own thoughts, trying to figure a way out. That's when Hajun passed by and asked what kind of scheme I was plotting now, and just like that the perfect sparring partner showed up. I barely finished asking Hajun for help before he flatly refused. Not a moment's hesitation, but a flash of inspiration hit me. I suddenly saw the solution. I turned and headed to the rooftop. Facing off against Hajun, I threw a jab, landing it solidly on Hajun's face. Sure enough, my jab proficiency increased. In fact, the Hajun in front of me was just a copy I'd made with Copy Cloud. Even if the real one wouldn't help, Hajun 2 was perfect for training and would boost my strength fast. I unleashed a flurry of combos on Hajun 2 jabs, straight spinning back kicks. One after another, my skill level shot up, and all my stats improved along with them. The next day when Lee Hai and Dong saw me, he was stunned. After just one day apart, he could feel my whole aura had changed. He even asked if I'd gone through some special training. I just played it cool. Don't ask what you shouldn't ask. Now I felt like I could kick over a telephone pole. Lee Hai and Dong instantly became my #1 fan. Just then a little underling came rushing up, reporting that they'd spotted East High thugs near our school. They were even collecting protection money on our turf. We'd known we'd have to fight East High eventually, but I hadn't expected them to move so soon. I wasn't really ready for a head-on clash. No need to confront them just yet. I asked where the enemy was, planning to just avoid them and head home safely. But the underling told me, face flushed with excitement, that Kang Do-hyuk was harassing girls right outside the gates of Gangbuk Girls High. My expression changed instantly. Facing East High directly was reckless, but a chance to play the hero, that was different. I hadn't expected Wang Dizong to show up too, blocking my way to settle the score from last time. Koja and Lee Hai and Dong tensed up. I told them to go save the girls. I'd handle things here. Wang Dizong's face darkened, thinking I'd lost my mind. He sneered, saying there was no way I could take him alone. If Hajun hadn't stepped in last time, I'd already be finished. I threw a punch and asked him where his confidence came from. Today, I'd show him what a real lesson looks like. On the other side, Kang Do-hyuk and his gang were blocking the school bell. Yang Seo and a few of her friends, finally out and about after being released by Han Hayo. They were determined to have some fun before heading back. The moment Kang Do-hyuk laid eyes on Yang Seo, he was completely stunned. Her looks could easily land her an idol contract tonight. He wasn't just after their money, he also planned to mess with them a little. Just then Lee Hai and Dong swuttered out and yelled for him to stop. Kang Do-hyuk hadn't expected to get discovered so quickly. A few of his thugs surrounded Lee Hai and Dong with wicked grins. Hai and Dong, outnumbered and outmatched, kept a brave face, but inside, he was panicking still. He'd already made his move, so he had no choice but to grit his teeth and buy some time. He struck a fighting pose, ready to go all out if needed. Suddenly, all the thugs froze in place, not daring to move a muscle. For a second, Hai and Dong thought it was his own aura that scared them stiff. One of the thugs actually stumbled back a couple steps in a panic. He'd caught sight of Kuyi's murderous glare, and his knees went weak. Ever since my rise, Kuyi had become the #2 figure at West High, and thanks to Hai and Dong's hype, his reputation was almost mythical among the underworld crowd. Everyone called him the Dark Destroyer. Now Hai and Dong really put on a show, boasting with confidence that with Big Brother Kuyi here, these punks didn't stand a chance. Kuyi kept his cool outwardly, but inside he was sweating bullets. Hai and Dong even gave him a thumbs up for encouragement, and Kuyi could only steel himself and stride over to the East High, gang hands in pockets, glasses on, acting like he couldn't care less about anyone. The East High thugs were properly intimidated and didn't dare make a move, but with Kang Do-hyuk on their side, they figured even if they couldn't win, they could at least work Kuya down. So they all charged forward with the air of men going to their doom. Just as Kujo was about to be exposed, I arrived on the scene panting from the run. Taking down Wang Dizong had delayed me a bit. Wang Dizong was still lying on the ground, looking utterly incredulous. He couldn't believe how much stronger I'd gotten in just a few days. With a determined look, I entered the alley quickly, exchanged a nod with Kujo, and stood in front of Kang Do-hyuk. Kang Do-hyuk was unimpressed by my appearance. He figured beating Wang Dizong wasn't much. He'd never thought much of Dizong anyway. He told his men to try me out first, see if I was all talk. Well, since that's how he wanted it. I wasn't about to hold back. Thanks to Kabi Cloud, my skill levels had shot up. I unleashed a flurry of combos, and not a single one of Kang Do-hyuk's thugs was left standing. Right then the system issued another task. Defeat Kang Do-hyuk to earn a silver card. After so many fights, I'd finally learned to get in people's heads. I licked the blood off my knuckles with mock seriousness and sneered at Kang Do-hyuk. I'm not interested in small fry. Go call Han Hayo and fight me one-on-one. Just then one of the punks tried to sneak attack me. I spun and landed a straight right to his face, then dashed into the crowd, dropping two more with a flurry of lefts and rights. East High's thugs had no sense of fair play. The last one even tried to sneak up on me, but I spotted him instantly and shut him down. I could feel the eyes of 3 girls on me. So after finishing off the last of the small fry, I deliberately turned and walked away, striking my coolest pose for their benefit. With all his men down, Kang Do-hyuk still managed to smile. Truth was, before they'd set out, he'd already heard about my strength from Wang Dijong. Back then Di-song had sworn up and down that with another shot, he'd leave me a cripple, but Kang Do-hyuk figured if he could handle Di-song, taking me down would be no problem. Di-song had even warned him to fight fair and never let me get in a sneak attack, but all of a sudden Kang Do-hyuk lunged forward, trying to catch me off guard. I wasn't about to let that slide. I unleashed a spinning back kick and sent him flying 8 meters. In that moment, Kang Do-hyuk was cursing Wang Di-song's entire family tree. My power was nothing like what Di-song had described. Was this a complete false report? While he was dazed, I didn't hesitate. I activated Ascend card, leaping high, and used maximum capacity mode, maxing out my power and weight. A crushing punch to Kang Do-hyuk's face. I actually scored a critical hit. Kang Do-hyuk's eyes rolled back and he collapsed instantly. I raised my fist high, giving them all a stylish parting shot. System notification: mission complete. Silver card acquired. Yan Soa looked at me nervously, asking if I was hurt. I turned and struck what I thought was my best pose, hoping she'd remember my face. The other 2 girls thanked me repeatedly and hurried Yan Soa away from the danger. They seemed a bit naive actually, believing the rumors that I turned my opponents into punching bags. After every fight it was all thanks to Li Hai and Dong. He'd exaggerated my legend until it was out of control, but Yan Soa didn't seem scared off blushing. She asked for my contact info. The more I looked at her, the more familiar she seemed. Turns out she was friends with my sister. Kim Da-hai and the other 2 girls were about to lose it, urgently whispering to her, "Everyone says he's a ruthless maniac. Let's get out of here." Yan Su was shy, but showed no sign of leaving. It was the first time such a beautiful girl had ever hit on me. Just as I was about to give her my number, Kang Do-hyuk suddenly let out a creepy laugh, telling me to enjoy the peace while I could. East High's now 5. Park Jae-hyun had already done to deal with Hee-jin. Once he was done with Hee-jin, he'd be coming for me. Meanwhile, Park Jan was already confronting Hee-jin, telling him to surrender quickly so he could go after me next. Hee-jin just kept working out, not even bothering to reply. Park Jae-hyun assumed Hee-jin was still traumatized from losing to me. After a couple of taunts, Hee-jin flattened him with a single punch. Smirking, Hee-jin said that since East High wasn't planning to let him off, he might as well team up with me. He told Park Jae-hyun to go back and tell Han Hayo to wash his neck and get ready. Satisfied after beating Kang Do-hyuk, I lay in bed, content 2 East High bosses down in one day. If this kept up, maybe I'd have a shot at Han Hayo. The thought puffed up my ego for a second, but reason quickly took over. Han Hayo's guys always moved in packs. Taking them on alone would be tough. I needed more help. I remember the main quest required recruiting 4 members. I already had 3 in my crew. Too bad I still hadn't found a solid new candidate. That's when inspiration struck. I summoned Copy Cloud. It took shape in my arms, transforming into Kim D-hyun. I almost slapped it away in panic, quickly telling her to keep her distance. If I'd known, I would have made it a Hee-jin clone. Once Copy Cloud was settled, I reached out and invited her to join the team. System message: invitation successful. Main quest complete. Gold card obtained. I immediately opened it, but the gold card skill left me scratching my head. I stared blankly at the description, not quite understanding what train team members was supposed to mean. Just then a prompt appeared listing all my members' base stats. I still didn't get how I was supposed to use this. Could I share experience points during fights? The system thoughtfully provided a training manual. Only by using training cards could I train team members, and to get those I'd have to complete training missions. The system would keep adding new ones in the future. Turns out brain work was not my forte. Still, these looked easier than side quests. I set the training business aside for now. I still had Kang Do-hyuk's reward to claim. This time my luck was in. I got an attack skill, the weaving boxing technique. I couldn't wait to try it out. My body flickered into after images. Dodge ability maxed out if I used this well. I'd never have to fear getting beaten up again. Just then a system popped up, a side quest. If I could draw another hook punch card, I'd unlock a new reward, a gold card. A total gamble. Looked like it was time for the card master to show his stuff again. I sorted out all my useless bronze cards and started fusing. 4 bronze cards turned into 2 silver cards. I was instantly speechless. What was this weird jump look like? Another unlucky day, but now I was hooked. My mind filled with a single thought: what if I tossed all my useless silvers in? Could I fuse the ultimate gold card? That evening was the daily gangbook strategy meeting. Ever since I took down King Du Hayek, my underlings were more fired up than ever. Huja looked a little traumatized, saying if we ever needed to fight again, please leave him out of it. Ian Dong, on the other hand, was over the moon, map in hand, giving me a crash course in local geography. The rules. King Du Hayek's turf was now mine. 3 new schools were waiting for me to claim them. I hesitated a bit. Grabbing East High's turf would definitely piss off Han Hayo, but until he brought his crew over, at least I had a breather. Never expected Han Dong, my ever unpredictable underling, to pull another stunt. He'd already made a secret alliance with South High. Just then he got news that his 2 guys had lost. He heard I'd taken over King Du Hayek's turf. He was itching to take his territory back, but right then another underling ran in, reporting that King Sok from South High had issued a formal challenge. If Han Hayo fought with us now, he'd be caught between 2 schools. Han Hayo thought I was just a minor nuisance who could be squashed anytime. When gangbuk, he would never allow anyone to be stronger than him. So he made a snap decision and gathered his whole force to take down the newly arrogant King Sok. News of the impending war between East High and South High spread like wildfire throughout the city. Han Dong's move to shift the trouble to East High was a stroke of genius. He strutted up to me, beaming, and demanded praise. He also suggested that since we bought ourselves some breathing room, we might as well take the opportunity to shake up our own ranks. Looking at the layers of bodyguards around me, I couldn't help but feel a little helpless. Internal reorganization. Wasn't that just code for recruiting even more people? Ian Dong grinned and said that was pretty much it. Turns out, the 3 schools on King Du Hayek's old turf were now under my command in name, but who could say if they'd really be loyal? The safest move would be for me to visit each one in person and show off a bit of strength to keep them in line. I was about to refuse, but right then, the system dropped a new training mission. At this point, I was starting to suspect the system was just Han Dong in disguise. The missions always came up at the worst possible time, leaving no room for argument. I had no choice but to start with Shoujenhai. Just then Han Dong gave me a mischievous look and gestured forward. Yang So blushed as she greeted me shyly, explaining she was waiting at the gate for Kim Du Hyan. They had plans today. I didn't think much of it, just switched into my cool boss persona and told them to get home early. Suddenly Yang Seo called out to me, mustering the courage to ask why I never replied to her messages. Han Dong egged her on from the side, nearly calling her sister-in-law on the spot. I answered haughtily that I'd reply to her text from now on, leaving her with a dashing parting shot. Meanwhile, the Chojian High thugs were holding a meeting, trying to figure out their next move. With King Du Hayek out, they were technically my underlings now. Most were ready to surrender, but their boss Zhang Jisoo refused. As Han is now one fan, he wouldn't be swayed. He was set on fighting me to the bitter end. Elsewhere, bracing for Han He's revenge, I'd gone all on fusing my cards to finally get the hook punch. With a full set of attack cards, I completed the system quest and received a brand new gold combat card. Dempsey roll. Now all I needed was a suitable opponent to test it on. Han is die-hard follower. Shogun High's boss Zhang Jisoo was perfect for the job. I never expected their secret base to be hidden behind the school. On the mountain, I dragged Han Dong over hills and through woods, completely out of breath by the time we arrived. Zhang Jisoo didn't play by the rules. He ambushed me before I could even catch my breath. On instinct, I dodged with a U-step, countered with a hook punch, and followed up with a barrage of lefts and rights. Then I switched to the Dempsey roll, stringing together an impressive combination. In just 5 seconds, I landed 64 punches, taking Zhang Jisoo down as easily as brushing off dust. I rounded up his underlings for good measure. Satisfied as the quest progress updated, I called out to Han Dong to head to the next school. After the Showdown fight, the rest went surprisingly smoothly. The remaining 2 schools didn't even put up a fight. They just begged me not to raise the protection fees. I reassured them stick with me and protection was free. Having completed the training mission, the system rewarded me with 4 new training cards, but distributing them was a headache. Jin was closest to maxing out, but if I powered him up completely, and he turned on me, I'd be screwed if I gave them all to Han Dong. Something just felt off in the end. My attention turned to Kuya. Right now he was the weakest in the group. Truth was I didn't want to drag Kyujo into all these street brawls, but at this rate he was bound to get caught up anyway. If I wanted to keep him safe, boosting his defense was the only way. Once I'd made up my mind, I didn't hesitate. I used all my training cards on Kyujo, then I turned to Hyundong. But the three schools consolidated and internal affairs sorted. I didn't need to worry about other schools stirring up trouble. But there was still one question on my mind. Who exactly was the boss of North High at the last gang book summit? He hadn't even shown up, judging by how wary Han Hayo and King Sok were of him. He must be something else. I asked Hyundong to look into North High's boss and get me some intel, but Hyundong said all anyone had were rumors. There was nothing concrete about him at all. I was baffled. How could such a person exist? Hyundong reminded me that legends about me were fast approaching North High's boss in terms of mystery. That thought actually put me at ease. In any case, North High's boss would reveal himself eventually. Hyundong now had headaches of his own. While the gang was running smoothly, nearly all our turf had been won by me personally. If we wanted to run things well, we'd need a professional manager, preferably a meticulous girl. Just then Hyundong's eyes lit up. There was one girl especially suited to be our first lady. He'd set his sights on the school belle. Back Sharon, he took it upon himself to organize a group outing, even booking a poolside villa. Back Sharon blushed furiously and slapped Hyundong across the face, demanding to know if he'd lost his mind. I didn't get what the big deal was. It was just a trip. Was that so bad? Hyundong whispered to me that the pool villa was a social media hotspot, with tons of girls posting bikini pics from there. I rolled my eyes and knew he had such moves. I gave him a lecture saying he deserved a slap. Students shouldn't go to places like that, but since everything was already set, there was no going back. Hyundong was still clueless. Bumming to back out, that's when Kuya appeared, asking why he hadn't been told about such a great plan. No one knew better than him how to persuade back Sharon. Kuya decided to get her best friends involved, inviting the whole group to the pool villa. Sure enough, after her friends wore her down, back Sharon reluctantly agreed. In the blink of an eye the day arrived. Kuya, Hyundong and I were all on pins and needles. Even Hajun tagged along for the fun. But seeing Baek Sharon and the girls dressed so conservatively, I felt a pang of disappointment. I couldn't help but use peep on her back to see if she brought a swimsuit. That tiny move got me caught. She smacked me so hard I saw stars. When we got to the villa and I saw her heading off to change, I got the urge to follow and was rewarded with another slap. I was completely innocent. If she agreed to come to the villa, didn't she expect we'd all stay over while we were enjoying our vacation? Word had already reached King Sok. Right now South High and East High were at war. King Sok had expected me to team up with him against Han Hayo, not to take my crew on a road trip straight into North High's territory. The North High thugs watched helplessly as we entered the villa, though I was just a legendary figure to them. Both Hee-jin and Baek Sharon were big names in gangbook. The thugs hesitated about whether to report us, but a blonde pump decided to make the first move. If he could take down Hajun here, he'd have major bragging rights with their boss. Meanwhile, inside the villa, Baek Sharon realized she'd been tricked. Kyuja, egged on by her besties, promised everyone would wear bikinis, but when they got to the pool, Baek Sharon found out she was the only one who'd fallen for it. Furious, she stormed out, dragged everyone back to the room, and let loose, refusing to get back in the water and denying us gross guys any more chances. After dinner, Lee Hai and Dong suggested we all play a game. The loser would have to shave off their eyebrows. Baek Sharon was a little shy, suggesting we shouldn't start with something so intense, better to take it slow. But 5 minutes later, she was the most enthusiastic of all, insisting on shaving my eyebrows if I lost. Everyone else saw us bickering and flirting, and figured there was definitely something going on. Hyundong, ever the troublemaker, suggested another game, 2 people holding hands, locked in the closet. The first to come out loses. Baek Sharon was all in, grabbing my hand and throwing down the gauntlet, promising I'd be the one to lose my eyebrows. Hyundong grinned wickedly, locked us in the closet together, and was probably thinking, boss, this is as much as I can help you. Inside, the atmosphere turned awkward. Me and Baek Sharon pressed close together. The whole thing felt straight out of a movie scene. We stayed in there a long time, the air getting more and more charged. Of course, that's when the system triggered a new side quest. Lose to Baek Sharon, reward a silver cart. It was unexpectedly simple, and the reward wasn't bad. I hesitated for a moment. Should I just throw the game and grab the cart? But I quickly dropped the idea. I snuck a glance at Baek Sharon, flushed and sweating in the cramped space. At a moment like this, how could I be so dense? Noticing my stare, Baek Sharon got embarrassed and told me to stop looking. I muttered under my breath. How could I not look when you're right here? Baek Sharon's cheeks burned red. And she whispered, if you're going to pretend, at least do it naturally still. Even as she said that, she held my hand tightly, refusing to let go, but I realized something was off. Shyness alone shouldn't leave her this soaked in sweat. Even her breathing was getting ragged. I quickly asked if she was feeling unwell, if I needed to give her mouth-to-mouth. Baek Sharon didn't even have the strength to scold me, just whispered that she couldn't stay in tight spaces. I was stunned, a girl as radiant as her at school. I'd never have guessed she was claustrophobic. Then she told me she'd been bullied before, because she never fought back. One time they locked her in a storage room for a whole day and night. Ever since she feels anxious in confined places. I stared at Baek Sharon well and up. Had I known, I never would have played this game. I remembered how she always stood up for me when I was bullied. I couldn't let her suffer just for my own amusement, so I let go of her hand, tried to push open the door, and realized that jerk Han Dong had locked us in from the outside. I started shouting for them to open the door, but those guys had actually gone off on purpose, giving me a long time. Baek Sharon, helpless, started to cry and asked what we should do. I immediately used maximum capacity, doubled my weight and strength, and smashed the closet door with a single punch. My fist throbbed with pain, but it didn't matter just then. Baek Sharon hugged me from behind, softly whispered, thank you. After your punishment, I'll shave your eyebrows myself. That's when my idiot instincts kicked in. Telling her not to thank me, I was starting to get a little too excited in there. If she caught my drift, Baek Sharon caught on, turned crimson, and told me to get lost. I accepted my loss and let her shave off my eyebrows. Thinking back to that wild time in the closet, I couldn't help but laugh to myself. Suddenly Han Dong burst in with urgent news. Kuya had been kidnapped by North High's thugs while he was out alone. Seeing the worry on Han Dong and Baek Sharon's faces, I stayed calm and reassured them. Kuya wasn't the same guy he used to be. At that moment, Kuya was surrounded by a gang of North High toughs. The blonde ringleader grinned wickedly, threatening to mess him up. He mocked that West High's no too is this pathetic. Maybe they had the wrong guy. His underlings jeered too. So all the rumors about West High were fake. Their strength was nothing special. Blondie waved his crew aside, wanting to do the job himself. Han was tight after finishing with Kyujo. He still had to go after Hajun. He threw a punch. Kyujo squeezed his eyes shut, resigned to his fate. Then unexpectedly, he lashed out with a reflexive punch. As I planned those training cards I gave him were for nothing. Blondie was caught off guard, knocked out cold on the spot. Kuja stared at his hand in disbelief. The punch had been pure instinct. The two remaining punks' legs turned to jelly. They thought Kuja had been hiding his power all along. Kuja's confidence shot through the roof. Truth was, he'd never actually been in a real fight before. Today was the perfect time to practice. He stalked toward the two, telling them to come and together he'd fight with his eyes closed. They were stunned by his bravado, but rushed him anyway. Kyujo suddenly opened his eyes. One punch sent one flying. He couldn't believe people were dumb enough to trust rumors. Today he'd teach them a lesson. Although he lacked real combat experience, after downing one he got caught off guard by the other. Even with his boosted attack, getting hit still hurt. The punks sneered at Kuja's pain. You know where you are, this is gang buck. But before he could finish, Kyujo, purely on instinct, unleashed a mess of wild punches, knocking both guys out and striking a triumphant pose, completing his first real fight in style. Li Hai and Dong, upon hearing that Kuya had single-handedly taken down North High's thugs, rushed over to shower him with praise. Kuya, a little full of himself from all the compliments, leaned against the window, striking cold poses and naturally attracting the attention of two fangirls. Watching Kyujo bask in glory, I finally felt some relief. After all, being the only one to get stronger was kind of embarrassing. Now that Kuja could handle himself, at least he wouldn't get beaten up anymore. Kuja's potential was S rank, though who knew when it would fully awaken. Baek Sharon spoke up, telling us to get back to our room. Since it was late, everyone took a few group photos and got ready for bed. This trip ended as quickly as it began. Before anything interesting could even happen, it was already over still. It was odd. A whole group of us had gone to hang out on North High's turf, and I'd been ready for a fight. But North High was strangely quiet. The guys who kidnapped Kyujo didn't even seem like North High's core members. I didn't bother to dig deeper. With West High's strength right now, avoiding a fight was always a good thing. But after all that commotion, Hajun hadn't shown up all night, which left me with a vague sense of unease. At that moment, Hajun was actually hiding out in a dark alley, meeting with a mysterious figure. To my shock, that person was none other than North High's legendary boss. Just what were the two of them planning in secret? The next day, I went to school as usual. Baek Sharon in front of the entire student body. dragged me into an empty classroom, leaving me completely baffled as to what she was up to. She sat down shyly, saying that as West High's boss, I ought to pay a little more attention to my image. Then she pulled out an eyebrow pencil, insisting on drawing my eyebrows for me. The atmosphere in the classroom quietly grew more intimate. Just as things were getting cozy, that idiot Han Hayo barged in with a crowd of underlings, totally ruining the mood. I was so annoyed. I almost beat the lot of them on the spot, but seeing as they'd all shaved off their own eyebrows, to spare me embarrassment, I decided to let it go after school. Han Hayo called a meeting of the brothers, solemnly declaring that with the current chaos, it was the perfect time to expand our influence, the first step toward unifying Gangbuk. No sooner had he finished than the system popped up a new main quest. This time with a twist, I had to choose one of 3 missions. I never thought the system would give me options, and the rewards for each were different. I studied the map, analyzing the relationships between West High and the other schools. First up, East High. The one I had the worst relationship with. Things with Han Hayo had already gone south, but the reward for picking them was mediocre. Just a silver card. Next was Kane Sok from South High. Lately we've been on good terms. The reward this time was a gold card, but if I betrayed Kane Sok, Han Hayo might seize the chance to strike. If I was only after rewards, attacking North High was the most lucrative, but with West High's current strength, if we angered North High, there was no telling if we'd get out in one piece. I thought about it for a long time, and just as I was about to choose North High, Han Hayo urgently stopped me, urging me to think it over. He said we weren't even in the same league as North High. That rubbed me the wrong way. After all, the North High thugs we met at the villa were pushovers. But Han Hayo was unusually clear-headed. He explained those were just small fry. The real North High bosses were on a totally different level, each one as terrifying as a monster. If I insisted on making a move, the only safe target was the local pool hall. The boss there ranked low in North High and wasn't that strong. But even if I beat him, if North High's main forces came for revenge, we'd be finished. I had to admit, Han Hayo had a point. Attacking North High without a solid plan would be reckless, so we take it step by step. Han Hayo, excited, asked who we'd hit first, East High or South High. Honestly, now was the perfect time to settle things with Han Hayo. After a moment of thought, I made my decision. I ordered everyone to prepare. This operation had to go off without a hitch. News of West High declaring war quickly spread through Gangbuk. Han Hayo was confident, convinced our main target would be East High. His crew was fired up, mobilizing everyone to wipe us out in one go. Meanwhile, Kane Sok caught wind of it too. South High's underlings assumed I'd strike at East High and thought it would be easy to ally with me against Han Hayo. They figured West High was the weakest, so if they ambushed us now, their chances of winning were high. But Kane Sok held his men back, sensing it might be a trap. I'd made a big show of joining the fight, but who my true target was, nobody could say better to wait for confirmation before making a move. Right then, both Kane Sok and Han Hayo received shocking news. West High was only sending 3 people, and even more unbelievable, we were targeting North High. At that moment, I arrived at Gangbuk Pool Hall with Kuyi and Han Hayo. Han Hayo was nervous, double-checking if I was really sure about this. After all, this was North High's strongest turf. I nodded firmly and laid out my plan. Turf could be snatched anytime, but what I really needed now was talent. This trip was all about recruiting the boss here for my team. Hujo was uneasy challenging North High so recklessly. If they retaliated, we'd be doomed. I told them not to worry, everything was under control. Besides, the real reason for attacking was that I couldn't let that platinum card slip away. Han Hayo was persuaded by my confidence, but looking at the pack of fierce North High thugs in front of us, he couldn't help but worry that we were the ones walking into a trap. Even I was tense from the pressure, glancing around and asking why their boss hadn't shown up yet. Just then a short-haired girl strode confidently into the pool hall. Sensing the tense atmosphere, she asked what was going on. To my utter surprise, this knockout short-haired girl was actually the boss here. Song Haru. Without thinking, I walked right up and asked if she wanted to join my crew. Han Hayo whispered for me to keep it together. This was not the time for nonsense. But what could I do? Do you believe in love at first sight? Before I even finished, Song Haru kicked me flying without mercy. Puya and Han Hayo panicked on the spot. Song Haru stretched lazily, then fixed me with a cold glare, clearly pegging me for trouble. Han Hayo leapt to my defense, flailing wildly at Song Haru. Unfortunately, the gap in strength was too great. She dropped him in an instant with a single move. He was in disbelief, never expecting a woman could be so fast and powerful. Song Haru scowled. She hated being called a woman most of all. Just as she was about to finish him off, Kuja stepped up to challenge her. I hurriedly stopped him, staggering to my feet and telling him to stand down. This was the first time I'd ever been knocked down by a girl. Just then the system issued a side quest. Excitement surged through me. No matter what, I had to win this girl over today. Sunharu was furious at my shamelessness, unleashing another powerful attack. I dodged with my evasion skill and couldn't help but marvel. Even fighting, she had an incredible allure. I was dying to test her strength. Sunharu's movements were unbelievably quick, whether it was a straight punch or a spinning back kick. She evaded them all with ease. Hyundong and Kuja looked worried. A girl could actually go toe-to-toe with me. I grew more intrigued by her and came clean. I beat a lot of people and she was the strongest yet. Wanna make a bet if I win? You'll be mine from now on. Sunharu thought I was just hitting on her, said nothing and threw another punch. I had no choice but to stop holding back. I dashed in close and delivered a hook punch to her stomach. Grinning, I asked, "Since you sneak attacked me first, does that mean our bet has already started?" And I threw a flurry of straight punches. Sunharu could only defend, but she was tough. She'd rather take a beating than admit defeat. I started to worry at this rate. Who knew how long this would drag on? If more North High people showed up, we'd be in trouble suddenly. Inspiration struck, sensing my distraction. Sunharu smashed a heavy punch into my face. I collapsed onto her chest. Sunharu couldn't believe she'd actually won, but then I suddenly hugged her, complimenting her on her laundry detergent. Sunharu was caught off guard, just about to explode, but I'd already activated maximum capacity, and suplexed her right to the floor. She blacked out on the spot. Leaning in close, I whispered, "You'll never get rid of me in this life." Just then I heard the system chime. Task complete, platinum card awarded. When Sunharu came to, she found herself lying in an unfamiliar room. Struggling to sit up, Lee Hyundong calmly told her not to move. He still had a few needles left to insert. He'd actually learned acupuncture just to be a better assistant to me, and now his first ever patient was Sunharu. I put on a serious act, showing her only my back, and assured her that we just brought her back to West High. No one had taken advantage of her. Only then did Sunharu realize she was at West High's main base. She immediately tried to leave. I reminded her not to forget our bet. She was mine now. Sunharu acted totally indifferent. As long as she didn't play by the rules couldn't touch her. I'd expected her to try and wriggle out of it. Luckily, I had just the thing. The silver card I got from the pool villa. This card boosted my success rate at persuading others. So I pulled her into a hug and said, "This is all for your own good." Sure enough, it worked. Sunharu gave in and agreed to join my team, but only if I'd help her fulfill a wish down the line. Still, she wasn't used to being so close and immediately pushed me away. She warned me seriously that West High was in for trouble because I had attacked North High's turf and recruited her. Their boss was bound to lead a raid on West High. Just mentioning the North High boss made Sunharu visibly nervous. She didn't dare face him head on. I reassured her, telling her I'd already thought of that. I'd sent Copy Cloud to the pool hall to impersonate her. With a new look, she'd be free to move about without worry. Sunharu was extremely unhappy with the butterfly bow I'd picked for her new style. Before she could get angered, I quickly found an excuse to slip away. I ran to the bathroom to claim my quest rewards. The silver card seemed pretty ordinary, probably just for decomposing, but the real focus was the platinum card. Last time I got the peep skill from a platinum card. Surely this one would be just as good, but when I saw the words "mirror call," I was completely stunned. I stared at the platinum card, baffled. Was it some sort of shield? The system must have noticed my idle hands, because it issued a new training mission. Meanwhile, Kane Sa was working out, still pondering the power struggle in Gangbuk. He thought my attack on North High was basically suicide. No way the North High boss would let it slide. West High could be wiped out by tomorrow. Just then one of his underlings rushed in, reporting that I'd already led my men into South High territory. If they didn't hurry back, they'd lose control of the Gangbuk tunnel. South High's thugs never expected I'd only bring 2 guys to throw our lives away. A bunch of them surrounded Sunharu, forming a ring, but Sunharu didn't flinch. Dodged their attacks and knocked down a few with a couple punches, then with a flying spinning back kick. She finished off 2 more. I clapped and cheered from the sidelines. That only made Sunharu angrier. "You called me out here to fight, and you're just standing there watching." I scribbled in my notebook, telling her not to rush. I made a note. Sunharu fast but average power and endurance punches, lack technique. If I ever draw an attack boost card, I'll have her try it out at the very least. She should be able to handle 10 opponents at once like Kyujo. I kept reminding myself that my main goal here was to find South High's business soon. I locked onto a few shady-looking guys and quietly followed to see what they were up to. By now Han Hayo was exhausted. She looked back and realized I had vanished, starting to worry about my safety. After all, this was South High turf. If I really got caught, the whole mission would fail. At that moment, Bang Jinil of South High appeared at the Gangbuk tunnel. Instantly zeroing in on Sung Hee-ru, he was clearly way stronger than her. All she could do was defend, not daring to make a reckless move. Meanwhile, Bang Yili had already found Kuj, who was tearing it up and with a single punch left him seeing stars. I had no idea my two lieutenants were both being completely overpowered. I'd just finished off a bunch of small fry and managed to grab a handbed. Given how desperately they've been protecting it, was this the legendary South High business? I was just about to open it when a chilling voice came from behind me. You really shouldn't go rifling through someone else's bat. Before I could react, Wang Dongyu from South High had me in a hold. I couldn't move an inch. I quickly tried to activate maximum capacity. But this guy's strength was insane. Even with my weight boosted by 100 kg, he still slammed me into unconsciousness. If that's how he wanted to play, then two could play at that game. I popped a senzu bean, my stamina instantly restored. But Wang Dongyu just sat right on top of me. With his weight, not even maximum capacity could help me break free. He started pummeling me. Meanwhile, the twin brothers had already finished off the others, and the three of us were tossed in a corner. So this is all West High's got. You losers actually dared to invade South High. Wang Dongyu told the twins to guard the bat. This was South High's business, and if it got stolen, no one would be able to fix it. Just then I snapped my eyes open. Looks like my guess was right. I sneered. Did they really think we'd come here just to get beaten? Three guys challenging South High. Weaklings like us always have a trump card. I staggered to my feet and asked them, "Do you believe in miracles?" The South High trio glanced at each other, thinking I was talking nonsense. I pulled out the platinum mirror call card. Its true effect when the whole team is down: instantly restores everyone's stamina and triples all stats for 1 minute. As the skill activated, Kuja and Sung Hayo were revived to full health. With every attribute max out, the twins and Wang Dongyu tried to run for it, but the three of us jumped them and beat them into the floor. Kang Sok arrived with South High reinforcements and was completely shocked to see his men out cold. Earlier he'd gotten word that West High had already been taken care of, but now the tables had turned, and even South High's business had been snatched. Grinding his teeth, Kang Sok ignored his three unconscious losers and ordered his men to contact Han Hayo, call for a ceasefire and form an alliance. Together they'd flatten West High in one fell swoop. The three of us stared excitedly at the bag we'd snatched. Even the usually icy Sung Hayo couldn't resist wanting a peek. Just what kind of treasure could be inside? We thought maybe it was cash or even weapons. But when we opened it, it was packed full of pain relief patches. Sung Hayo and I were both dumbfounded. Was this really how South High made their money? I guess that knowing Kang Sok's personality, he might drag his guys onto buses to force old folks to buy ointments, refusing to let them off unless they paid. If that was true, he was a total menace to society. Sung Hayo just looked at me speechless, clearly thinking Kang Sok couldn't possibly be that dumb. Then Kuya spoke up. These were addictive pain relief patches. Just a little could ruin someone's life. Definitely not something to be used lightly. He figured Kang Sok had probably cut a deal with some shady doctors to get his hands on these, then resold them to students at a huge markup. I stared at the pills in Kuja's palm, creeped out for a high schooler. Kang Sok was seriously hardcore. Right then the system pinged. We'd cracked South High's money-making scheme and scored a pile of training cards on the way home. My feelings were mixed. Today had taken everything out of me. Who knew South High would be so tough? If it weren't for that miracle card, West High would have been wiped out. But such a powerful skill had a cooldown of a whole month. Now that we'd stolen South High's goods, there was no way they'd let this go. I needed to use those training cards fast, but who should get them? That was the tricky part. I already had plenty of strong skills. Stacking everything on myself felt wasteful. Ideally, everyone should level up together. Sung Hayo was the new recruit, already with a solid foundation. If I boosted her stamina and strength, she'd hit the next tier if I got lucky and triggered a hidden skill. Maybe she could even rival the No. 2 or 3 at other schools. Kujo was my most loyal brother, so powering him up was the safest bet. Meanwhile, Han got a call from Kang Sok, who this time was reaching out for an alliance. Kang Sok was determined to crush West High, offering Han Hayo a chunk of territory in exchange for joining forces. Han Hayo was over the moon, immediately rallying his crew for war. Just as I was deciding who to power up, one of my underlings rushed over. East High had launched a surprise attack, sending out the same 3 guys we'd beaten before, but this time they were way stronger. Our people couldn't handle them at all. and the situation was completely out of control. I told them to hold on, dashing off to help as fast as I could. Unfortunately, the one facing East High head-on was the weakest in our crew. Lee and Dong, the three school bosses we'd worked so hard to recruit, were already down, and Dong was bleeding all over his face. Facing such powerful enemies, he charged and ready to risk everything. Guan Dizong had always looked down on Dong, thinking he was just a bootlicker who'd locked into a spot. He slammed his fist into Dong's face, using him as a punching bag, beating him over and over. Dong couldn't even fight back. Guan Dizong straddled him, demanding to know what a loser like him was doing. As West Highs know, the three school bosses sprawled on the ground were all stronger than Dong. Listening to Huang Dizong's taunts, Dong was overwhelmed with guilt. He'd always wanted to help me rule gang book, but every fight he just held me back. Whether it was he Jing Kuyao or the newly joined Sung Haru, they were all strong in their own right. He felt completely useless. Park Ji-hyun glanced at Dong, eyes dull and empty. He knew Dong was finished. He grabbed Dong's phone and called me, declaring the territory now belonged to East High, and to send a message they were going to cripple Dong on the spot. The call ended with that threat. Hearing they were about to go that far, I panicked, just hoping nothing would happen to him. That's when the system sent a sudden alert. Congratulations, team member Lee Dong's potential has awakened. The system instantly restored his stamina, and gifted him a unique attack card tool use. The East High trio saw Dong still had some fight in him, and told Huang Dizong to hurry up and finish him. But Dong grabbed a stick from the ground and went absolutely berserk on Huang Dizong. Huang Dizong was stunned despite his top-tier endurance. He was actually getting battered by a lousy stick. A murderous light shone in Dong's eyes. He even drew a new eyebrow on his forehead with his own blood. From this moment on, he'd be stronger, no longer my burden. Kang Do-hyuk and Park Ji-hyun sneered at the scene. What is this, a movie? Even now you think you can take us both? They got ready to jump him, but Jin appeared, seeing he and Dong's transformation. Jin was pleased. He shot the other two a cold look, freezing them in their tracks. Jin, cigarette dangling from his mouth, told them to light it for him. By now Huang Dizong had recovered and wasn't about to stand for it. What was Dong anyway? He dared to fight back. He realized it was just Dong's momentum before. There was no way a stick could break through his defense. Huang Dizong set up his guard, and as soon as Dong attacked, he countered with a punch, sending Dong flying 10 meters. Even if God himself showed up, you'd still be screwed. I was a nervous wreck. Even if Dong had awakened his potential, his base strength was still average. It could only help so much. If I didn't get there soon, I might really have to collect his body. Suddenly Dong's stats spiked, even scaring me. I had no idea what was happening on the field. Dong tossed away the stick and picked up an exhaust pipe instead. With his tool use skill, the stronger the weapon, the more his stats soared in a desperate burst. Dong struck with all his might, knocking the Endurance King Huang Dizong flat, then collapsing himself. That last blow had used up everything he had. He wanted to help Jin, but just couldn't move. When he looked up, he realized he'd worried for nothing. Jin, fighting 2-on-1, had already dealt with Kang Do-hyuk. Park Gi-hun tore off his shirt, remembering how Jin had nearly crippled him last time. This time he was out for revenge. He threw a flurry of punches, but Hajun dodged them all with ease. Park Ji-hyun grew desperate. He was East High's No. 5. After all, how could he stand being toyed with like this? Finally he caught Hajun's collar and tried to headbutt him. Dong watched in shock. This guy fought dirty. Was Jin going to be okay? But Jin was unfazed, giving Park Ji-hyun a dismissive look and spitting out. That's it. He grabbed Park Ji-hyun's head and with a single punch, broke 2 of his ribs as Jin went in for the finish. Han Hayo arrived, landing a flying kick that sent Jin sprawling. Han Hayo stood above him with a group of henchmen, looking down and saying, Park Ji-hyun is my friend. If you cripple him, what am I supposed to do? Hagen just laughed coldly. There's plenty of you. Draw some lines, and let's get started. Knowingly the brute force type, Han Hayo had actually been quietly assembling a strike team, specifically to target each school boss. This time he brought 3 of them, to gang up on Hajun and see the results of his training. In raw stats the 3 were on par with Hajun, but in real combat they were no match. Under the mounting pressure, Hajun's potential erupted, and in a few moves he dropped all 3. But the effort left him completely drained. He could barely stand. Han Hayo hadn't really expected those 3 to win. His plan was just to wear Jin out. Now that the fight was totally one-sided, he simply threw out an olive branch, asking Jin to join East High and rule gang up together. Hagen ignored him, just clenching his cigarette and telling Han Hayo to come over and light it. Sensing things going south, Dong called me for help. At that moment I was still desperately rushing to the scene. At this rate, by the time I arrived, all I'd be able to do was help clean up the mess. In my panic, I suddenly thought of a way to turn things around. I had 6 training cards on me, might as well use them all on Hajun, but to my confusion, even after putting everything into Hajun, his stats didn't budge. Maybe it was because most of his abilities were already S rank and he needed higher level cards to upgrade. I was worried things were about to go really wrong, and could only keep sprinting toward the fight. Meanwhile, Hajun, drained of stamina, was blindsided by a thug and could barely move where he stood, but the moment the training cards took effect, a red glow radiated from Hajun's body. The thug didn't even have time to react before Hajun stunned him with an elbow strike. With a boost from 6 training cards, Hajun instantly activated a special skill, Creative Combat Technique. A flurry of phantom punches sent the sneak attacker straight into unconsciousness, leaving everyone present in shock. Even Hajun himself was baffled. He'd never learned this style before, yet now he could use it as if it were instinct. The 3 members of the strike team were swept aside by Hajun's onslaught, but Han Hayo seized the chance to sneak up, kicking Hajun hard in the temple. Stars flashed before Hajun's eyes, and his reaction slowed. Han Hayo immediately spotted the flaw in this new technique. It was obvious that, as long as he denied Hajun a chance to close the distance, the boxing style was useless. Taking advantage of Hajun's sluggishness, Han Hayo launched a wild barrage of attacks. Hajun was left with no way to fight back, forced to take the beating. Just as Han Hayo was about to land a finishing blow, Hajun suddenly grabbed his leg and countered with a punch to Han Hayo's jaw. That completely enraged Han Hayo, but before anyone could react, Hajun suddenly opened his mouth and admitted defeat, leaving the battlefield to me, who had finally arrived. Han Hayo gave me a contemptuous look. Didn't get beat up enough last time. I didn't answer, instead sizing up the gap between us. Han Hayo had just taken a heavy hit. If I used every card I had, maybe I could take him this time. I got into my fighting stance, ready to go 300 rounds with Han Hayo, but he just calmly lit a cigarette. The next moment the entire East High crew showed up. Han Hayo sneered, "Are you planning to take us all on by yourself?" And then with a wicked grin, gave me the bad news. King Sok and the South High gang were on their way. Starting tomorrow, gang books West High would be their turf. I lowered my head and thought for a moment, then offered Han Hayo a deal. I'd trade South High's goods for the lives of my 3 teammates. Han Hayo looked at me like I'd lost my mind. "If I kill you 3, the goods are still mine." He waved his men forward, but I pulled out a lighter. "Steady as ever. If you don't take my deal, I'll destroy the goods right here and now." Han Hayo weighed his options, then decided to take the bag and let us go. After returning to school, I apologized to everyone for my reckless actions. Han Hayo was right, I was still far from a qualified boss. Kucha tried to comfort me, telling me not to take it too hard. At least this time we'd survived with our turf intact. Still, this was a wake-up call for us. A team like ours desperately needed a true strategist to hold the fort. I agreed completely among us. The smartest was Lee Hyun-dong, but compared to the brains behind the other schools, he was still a notch below. The rest didn't even count, just a bunch of muscle heads. Suddenly Lee Hyun-dong spoke up. He said he knew the perfect candidate for our strategist, a true expert in both internal management and external tactics. This person had once advised the legendary Gangbuk Imperial Dog Alliance and was known as the Sanjo of Gangbuk. Tales of his exploits were famous throughout the city. It was said that landing him was as good as ruling the world. Many organizations had tried to recruit him, but he always refused at first. I thought Hyun-dong must be exaggerating, but just then the system popped up. A new quest: recruit this person and you'll receive an advanced attack card. The reward was so tempting. Hyun-dong's story was probably true. I urged him to hurry up if someone else got there first. We'd be in trouble, but Hyun-dong just sat down, taking his time to explain. East High and South High had already tried to recruit him in the past, but he turned them down, saying he didn't want to waste his talents on war, let alone our crew. We were the weakest of the 4 big schools. Chances were Jeonji Hyuk wouldn't even bother talking to us. Sung Haru and Kuya agreed this was an opportunity we couldn't miss. The vote was unanimous. We all headed straight to Jeonji Hyuk's house, only to be greeted by a pockmarked Doman, who said the teacher was busy gaming and told us to come back another day. Buja lost his cool on the spot. I told him to relax. If you want a real expert, you've got to be persistent. I was about to leave when Hyun-dong suddenly stopped me. He pointed at the pockmarked guy, grumbling, "Boss, that's the Sun Tzu of Gangbuk, Jeonji Hyuk himself." I was mortified. Cursing him out in my mind, I quickly used Peep to check his stats. Just as the rumors said, his IQ was through the roof, but his other attributes were abysmal. Obviously Jeonji Hyuk was messing with us. pretending not to care about our petty turf wars, and bluntly told us to get lost. I was at a loss for words, not knowing how to persuade him, but then John Ji-hya caught a glimpse of Sung Hee-woo fixing her hair, and his attitude changed instantly. He invited us in to talk after hearing our story. John Ji-hya just said things have a way of working themselves out. I had no idea what he meant and asked him to explain. John Ji-hya began to elaborate. To him Kang Sok's goods were like a lifeline. Now that Han Hayo had taken them, another fight was inevitable, but the war wouldn't last long. Most likely Kang Sok would cede some turf to get his goods back. Once the truce was reached, they'd unite and target West High together. That would be our doomsday. To block their attack, the most direct way was to find outside help. Form an alliance with North High. If we agreed in advance that all captured territory would go to North High, they'd be willing to help. Then have Hajun and the North High crew focus on the stronger Han Hayo, while the rest of West High dealt with South High's assault. Once we took South High's turf, it'd be a three-way standoff. At that point, we'd finally be able to stand toe-to-toe with North and East High. Zhang Ji-hyek's plan instantly opened my eyes. I resolved right there. I had to bring him back to West High no matter what, but Zhang Ji-hyek said he'd sworn a blood oath never to get involved in gangbuk school wars. Yet a second later he sneaked another glance at Sung Haru and immediately declared his loyalty. Just then Zhang Ji-hyek's big brother came home. Rumor had it he used to rule all of gangbuk, Imperial Dog Alliance's number 2. I couldn't resist peeping his stats. One look at those outrageous numbers and I knew he was the real deal. I was already thinking about recruiting him too, but looking at our current situation, there was no way we could get both at once. I had to shelve the idea for now, and wait for a better chance to get closer to Zhang Ji-hyek. But the plan said I sent Hajun to negotiate with North High. North High, as the dominant force, sent 2 punks whose ranks were even lower than Sung Haru's, and yet they acted all high and mighty toward Hajun. No one knew why the higher-ups sent them, but since they were here we had to treat them like fibs. Hajun never won for nonsense. Dacked the 2 punks with a single punch. He made it clear, know your place in the hierarchy. Just then North High squad leader Choi Gang-sen showed up and urged Hajun to let it go. The new guys didn't know any better. Don't take it personally, Hagen asked with a blank expression. Did you discuss the alliance with your boss? Choi Gang-sen could only sigh. North High's boss never cared about these things. Even if they told him, he'd just ignore it. Still, this alliance was a good thing for Choi Gang-sen. If he pulled it off, his ranking in North High might even go up. After a quick discussion, the alliance was sealed. Meanwhile, I was still playing on the seesaw in the park when I got a call from Hajun. Instantly my spirits lifted. I couldn't believe the alliance had gone so smoothly. Pulling Zhang Ji-hyek into our camp really was the right call. I thanked Hajun sincerely. If he hadn't shown up in time last time, both Lee Hai and Dong and I would have been toast. Hagen got a little tsundere, telling me not to make a big deal out of it. He just couldn't stand Han Hayo. After hanging up, I stretched out on a park bench, zoning out after fighting so many tough battles. I distributed all my training cards to the crew, and everyone's strength had gone up, but when I compared us, I realized I'd actually become the weakest in the team. I hesitated. Should I use the reward for recruiting Zhang Ji-hyek on myself? But I was worried if my strength rose too fast, the system would automatically escalate the difficulty of my missions. In the end, I gave up on the idea. If I wanted to get stronger, I have to do more combat missions. Ever since I became West High's boss, all the local punks avoided me. If I wanted good practice, I'd have to hide my identity, and the opponents couldn't be too weak. Suddenly I realized only North High's thugs didn't know who I was. Perfect, I'd used them for training. Plus North High had the largest territory, so more mission opportunities. With that in mind, I grabbed a paper bag and pulled it over my head, swaggering right into North High turf to start some trouble. A few punks saw how cocky I was and immediately surrounded me. At that moment the system triggered a new main quest. Explore North High territory. Reward a diamond card. Before I could even read the details, a blonde punk tried to sucker punch me. I dodged on reflex and smacked him hard across the face. Blondie was stunned but lunged at me again. I ducked easily under his fist, but North High's punks didn't play fair. While I was focused on Blondie, the rest jumped in all at once. I couldn't handle so many fists at once, and got knocked down right away. These guys were nothing like the ones from the pool villa. Maybe this was North High's real power. Just then my passive skill master. Please activate it this time. The random stat boost was speed. Time to show these punks that speed kills. I wiped the floor with a little thugs one after the other as I finished up. Kyujo called to report in. Everything was unfolding just like Janji Hayek predicted. Han Hayo had squeezed a huge sum out of Kane Sok to return his goods, so now those two were officially enemies for life. With their standoff, we finally had a breather. I couldn't help but marvel. Having a strategist really did make a difference. But then Kuya changed tone. After all, Janji Hayek was really one of us. Could we really trust him 100? If he sabotaged us, we might all go down. I cut him off. Li Hai and Dong nearly got crippled last time because we had no plan. We were just running around like headless chickens and paid the price. I couldn't be sure Janji Hayek wouldn't turn on us, but right now I didn't have any better options. The only way to keep him in check was to keep getting stronger through real fights. After hanging up the system, updated my ongoing quest. Now I had to make the golden paper bag name famous. Honestly, it was a headache. Looked like I'd have to hang around in North High for a while, building up my rep within a week. My antics had the whole of North High on edge. News reached their big boss fast, and he ordered all his guys to uncover the true identity of Golden Paper Bat. Meanwhile, the real culprit, me, was enjoying school beauty back chair and drawing my eyebrows. She promised last time to do my makeup, but when she saw the razor scars on my face, she instantly guessed I'd hurt myself on purpose and refused to help. A glance revealed some curious onlookers peeking in, so I immediately started whining and playing cute. You promised to draw my eyebrows for life. Beck Sharon slapped me directly, then stoned out of the classroom in a huff. I was about to chase after her when the system suddenly updated my quest again. This time the mission was to get closer to Yan So, the school beauty from the girls' high. I froze. The North High main quest was progressing this way. Why was Yan So involved again? Did the system think I was hopeless with Beck Sharon and wanted me to switch targets only? I really didn't know how to approach Yan So. Last time she was the one who reached out to chat, and my clueless responses totally killed the mood. All I could do now was bite the bullet and ask her out for coffee. To my surprise, the second I sent the message, Yan So agreed and hurried over to meet me. Meanwhile, Beck Sharon was chatting with her two best friends at a cafe. After some relentless teasing, she finally admitted that she did have a bit of a crush on me, but whether we'd actually end up together would depend on how I acted in the future. No sooner had she said this than she saw me and Yan So standing at the entrance. Beck Sharon instantly flared up, banging on the window to warn me. Yan So seemed to sense something, looked up and spotted Beck Sharon, then immediately said she didn't feel like having coffee anymore, suggesting me go somewhere else to talk to complete the mission. I just went along with her, but soon I started to feel something was off. Yang So led me straight to her house. I hesitated. Wasn't this a bit much for a first date, going to a girl's place? But Yang So cheeks flushed. Asked, didn't you say you wanted to get a little closer to me? And just like that, I found myself inside her home. I waited in the living room while she went to change. Half an hour passed with no sign of her. I started to wonder if she'd fallen asleep or something. In reality, Yang So was a nervous wreck, blocking the doorway and terrified I'd walk in. A moment ago she'd been scared stiff by the murderous look Beck Sharon gave her at the cafe, acting on impulse, maybe just to prove a point. She dragged me back to her place. Now that she'd calmed down, she had no idea how to face me. Seeing that she still hadn't come out, I figured she must be shy. I said it was fine, we could just chat through the door. The two of us started a meandering conversation, drifting from favorite foods all the way to world affairs, but the system just wouldn't recognize us as friends. I started to lose patience. Did I actually have to get her out here and do something for the mission to count? Thinking about how Yang So had always been the quiet type since we were kids, I couldn't help but feel a little helpless. At this rate, we'd be talking until sunrise. Finally, Yang So spoke up, asking if I remembered anything from our childhood. I was so tired my eyelids were drooping, so I just mumbled for her to go on. Actually, Yang So was my sister Kim Doyen's best friend. She'd practically grown up with us, but she'd always been quiet. Every time my sister and I fought, Yang So would just sit there smiling silently, never saying a word once. My sister even asked why I thought of Yang So. True to my clueless guy nature, I'd said she was pretty enough, but timid and too quiet, kind of boring. There was one time walking home, Yang So was almost abducted by a creep. Luckily, people nearby stepped in to save her, but her parents were both at work and couldn't come pick her up. I hesitated for ages, but in the end, stubbornly told her to get on the back of my bike so I could take her home for the next week. I escorted her home every day. After that, she moved away, and I eventually forgot all about it. But Yang So never did. She finally came out of her room, sat beside me, and recalled those memories with a dreamy look, but I was already fast asleep, snoring on her couch, and missed her confession completely. Yang So wasn't discouraged though. If I didn't remember, maybe it would be even more interesting. She even stole a kiss while I was sleeping. I had no idea any of this happened. I just spent the night sound asleep on Han Hayo's sofa. The next morning, I woke up to find the mission had somehow completed itself, but Han Hayo was nowhere to be found and didn't reply to my texts. Was she mad at me still? The task was done and her role as my pawn was over. That's when the system announced the final mission. I had to take over the Gangbuk Hotel. I was floored. Hotels were places for adults. Was I really supposed to take on a mob for real this time? The system worried I'd get lost, even thoughtfully gave me directions. Wasn't it just throwing me to the wolves for that diamond car? I put on my hood and went to Gangbuk Hotel. The moment I arrived, a gang of thugs surrounded me. Kid, you've got guts coming here alone to court death. I had seen enough by now. Even if I was flying solo, I couldn't lose my nerve. With a cocky grin, I declared, from today on, Gangbuk Hotel is under my control. Someone in the crowd suddenly spoke up. He said if I left quietly, he'd let bygones be bygones, since he figured I was no real threat. I glanced up and locked eyes with Yangshin Hack, North High's representative, and quietly activated my peep skill. His icy stare sent a chill down my spine. This was North High's No 20. Yangshin Hack's combat power was almost on par with Hajun. My confidence started to falter. Last time I beat Hajun, it was pure luck. Even worse, there were way too many of them. To take over Gangbuk Hotel, I have to beat every single person present. This system quest was clearly trying to get me killed. The North High thugs, emboldened by their numbers, even tried to jump me. No shame at all. Yangshin Hack, in a serious tone, actually praised me. Marching in here alone without flinching was worthy of respect. What surprised him most was that I lasted less than 3 seconds before getting beaten like a dog. He couldn't believe someone this weak would dare to pick a fight, but he did admire my guts. From my fighting style, he could tell I had solid boxing skills, but was clearly inexperienced at fighting a crowd. Still, results were what mattered. Now that I was the one on the ground, he had no reason to show mercy. Once they uncovered my real identity, North High would go after everyone behind me. Yangshin Hack crouched down and reached for my hood. I clung to his thigh and unleashed maximum capacity. With a slick over-the-shoulder throw, I slammed him to the ground. The whole room froze in shock. No one expected their war god like Yangshin Hack to get tossed by a nobody like me, but I was even more confused. Even after flooring the boss, the mission wasn't complete. I looked back. Yangshin Hack was completely unscathed. Not even a scratch. The punks around me started mocking. Coming here to pick a fight? Did you even do your homework? Yangshin Hack's a judo champ. Getting thrown is nothing to him. I was stunned, regretting not scouting my opponent first. I'd already burned my trump card. Maximum capacity. Was I just supposed to stand here and get beat? Unwilling to give up, I threw a straight punch at Yangshin Hack. He just shrugged, even taunting. Didn't you eat? Where's that power from before? My stomach dropped. Maximum capacity had worn off. No way could I take him head on now. Luckily, I still had my evasion skill. If he managed to grab me, that would be the end. I quickly jumped back 2 steps to put some distance between us, then using the momentum launched a spinning back kick at his jaw. But my so-called finishing move was caught with ease. I was left hanging in midair. Nowhere to run. Yangshin Hack grabbed my collar and slammed me to the ground. The impact left me dizzy and unable to stand. He raised his fist, ready to finish me off for good. I glanced at my mission window, despair flooding in. Was this really where my run ended? Suddenly I remembered the advanced training cards I'd saved after recruiting John G. Hayek. This might be my one shot at a comeback. I'd always worried that using all the cards on myself would make future missions harder, but now there was no other choice. After popping a senzu bean, I went all in, using every last training card. My strength and speed instantly shot up to a rank. With a single kick I sent Yangshin Hack flying 10 meters. And as if that wasn't enough, I drew a new advanced attack card, the long-lost ancient taekwondo. My body became a blur as I rained a storm of kicks down on Yangshin Hack. He was completely caught off guard. He'd never seen anything like it. All he could do was defend, desperately looking for a counterattack. I gave him no chance. My fists pounded down like rain, beating Yangshin Hack into submission. With a final kick I knocked him out cold. Standing tall with my hands behind my back, I left the stunned crowd with only my dashing silhouette. Right on cue the system chimed, "Congratulations. You've received a diamond card." Who would have thought someone as fierce as Yangshin Hack was only ranked 20th at North High? I couldn't even imagine how strong the top ranks were. It was clear now our skirmishes with other schools were child's play. North High was the real king. Ancient Taekwondo was basically unknown territory. If I could master it, I'd catch any opponent completely off guard. But now my boxing skills suddenly felt a bit redundant. I'd finally collected a full set, but in real battles they weren't that useful. Fun for beating up rookies, but no good against real experts. After all that effort collecting them, I felt a little reluctant to just fuse them away. I put the boxing cards away and turned my attention to the new diamond card. I'd nearly lost my life for this reward. With high hopes I flipped it open, praying it would boost my power. But I was stunned it was a one-time consumable. Its effect had upgraded all my cards at once. Turns out sincerity does pay off. My combat power soared now. Even if I went toe-to-toe with Yang Chenak, I could beat him easily as if he'd foreseen it. Janji Hyuk declared that now was the perfect time to go to war. He called everyone to a meeting to discuss our next move. While Hajun and the North High Alliance attacked East High, we couldn't just sit around. Now was the best time to strike South High. Still I felt uneasy. South High was always stronger than West High. If we fought head-on we'd lose. I asked Janji Hyuk to spell out the plan. There were two main routes from West High to South High, both heavily guarded, and close enough that supporting one from the other was easy. If we focused on just one, reinforcements from the other would arrive quickly. The only solution was to attack both simultaneously, leaving them unable to help each other. In the end, Lehigh and Dong was assigned to defend West High, as a mobile force guarding the base and ready to support either front at a moment's notice. Kyujo would lead the main force assault on Point A. According to Janji Hyuk's analysis, Point B's defenses should be thinner. Finally, the strongest duo, me and Sung Haru, would take on Point B. I had no objections, if anything. I was looking forward to fighting side by side with her. Sung Haru was already itching for action on the way there. Before I could stop her, she charged straight into South High's base. The moment the doors opened and she saw our old rivals, she immediately regretted her recklessness. Standing guard were Wang Dongyu and the twin brothers, seeing there were only two of us daring to storm South High's HQ. All three were itching to settle old scores. Without a word I stepped in front of Sung Haru, unleashed ancient taekwondo, and sent the leering Bang Junkie flying with a single kick, leaving the rest of the small fry for Sung Haru to handle. The three ranked guys, I could handle them on my own. Wang Dongyu and Bang Junkie mocked me for overestimating myself, but just as they were about to attack, they got word that Point A was under heavy assault from West High's main force. Now with Sung Haru and me blocking the only way out, they couldn't send any support, but Wang Dongyu wasn't worried at all. After all, the defender at Point A outranked even him. Meanwhile, Kyujo was already steamrolling the grunts at Point A, leering at the final boss and urging her to just give up. The girl, wooden sword in hand, cocked her head with a sneer and spat out just two words: fuck off.